Hello, welcome back to another video. And I just finished reading this book. And I'm not talking about the book, it's not a book review, but it started off a train of thought, and I thought I would explore that and talk about that a bit. I came to the book much later than a lot of people did. This has been on the bestseller list for a very long time. I actually came to it through the show. I watched a few episodes and the production quality was superb. The characters, the actors, actresses, they were phenomenal, and I really enjoyed the show. So I watched about 2 or 3 episodes, and then I said, I'm going to wait. I'm not going to see the show. Let me read the book first, and I can always come back to the show. I can watch it later. I didn't know what it was about. I read the blurb a couple of times. I picked it up in bookshops, but never really tried to find out much more about the book. So I went in quite cold. Um, so here's my takeout from the book, and of course, no spoilers. Not that there's anything much to spoil. Um, it's a beautiful, beautiful story. It's a little haunting in the sense that you keep going back to the characters. You think about what they've been through. It is a sad story. There is a lot of heartbreak. There's a lot of grief. There's a lot of sorrow, and that is very real to what the characters were going through at that period in time, which is the times of the Japanese occupation of Korea and the Second World War, and the plight of Koreans in Korea and in Japan, the sense of identity, the loss of identity and culture, etc. But that's about the book itself. The writing is something that struck me because it seemed very unliterary. It seemed very plain. It seemed very sparse, especially when they were talking about extremely poignant, extremely emotional moments, moment of loss, a moment of reunion, like deeply personal, deeply emotional moments. But they seem to be written about very sparsely, very simply. And it seemed almost, and I don't think this is translated. This is written in English, so it's not a question of translation. So it was clearly the author's choice to write it that way. And I think in the beginning it bothered me. I said it just didn't work for me. I needed a little more. Um, I needed more. I needed the language to do more, and not just state something, and not just state what happened, and make me feel the emotion. And which is why I felt the show was phenomenal. There was one scene I remember where a lady goes to a rice cellar. A Korean lady goes to a rice cellar, and this is before the World War, and she just wants 2 bowls of rice so that she can give it to her daughter. And she's just the daughter's just gotten married, so for the daughter and the son-in-law, just give them 2 bowls of rice before they leave Korea and go to Japan. So she says, I want them to have the taste, one last taste of Korean rice. And it's very hard to come by because most of the rice has been taken by the Japanese for their needs, right? So that scene was so beautiful. It actually brought me to tears. It was so beautifully made, beautifully shot. But the same thing in the book, because I'd seen that episode, I was looking forward to seeing how it would be dealt with in the book. And the book, um, it could be a me problem. It didn't evoke that kind of emotion. Not just that episode, but many other episodes further on. It just didn't evoke the emotion for me. And therefore, the style of writing troubled me. Story was great, the writing didn't evoke an emotion in me. So it got me thinking, what makes a book literary? What makes a book qualify and come under literary fiction? Because this is definitely literary fiction. It comes under that. It's not genre fiction. And this is something that I've been talking about I've been thinking about. I'd made some notes about it. I talked about it with some friends. What makes a piece of writing? What makes a novel a literary novel? What makes it literary fiction? Is it the style of writing? Is it the flowery language? Immediately our thoughts go to the language, right? That it has to be opulent, it has to be rich, it has to be evocative, descriptive, long flowing sentences, etc. Although Hemingway, who is also literary fiction, is far from that. And there are many other writers who don't write that way but still come under literary fiction. So, is it the theme? Is it the ideas that it deals with, the larger questions about identity, about culture, society, the big WH questions: who are we, where do we come from, what happens after we move on, etc. So, is it the theme? Is it the language? Is it the style of writing? What makes literature literary? Um, I don't have an answer. I don't think anybody does. But here's the interesting thing. I was thinking about it, and I'm also doing a lot of reading on literary theory and criticism, and I came across Russian formalism, a school of thought, which asked precisely the same questions I was asking, but they did it over a century ago. I think as way back as 1917, if I'm not wrong. So the Russian formalist thinkers were asking the same question: what makes something literary? What makes a piece of writing literary? And I still haven't finished reading about it completely, so I don't have an complete answer yet. I have some points, but we'll come back to it later. And I found that interesting, that the question I was dealing with, something that I had been pondering about, has already been considered. A whole school of thought exists. A lot of books have been written about it, essays have been written, debates, everything has happened. That school of thought has spawned and given rise to many more different schools of thought, like like structuralism, post-structuralism, etc. Everything started with this, and I found that really interesting, and I think that's the beauty of reading widely. Um, the ideas that we think we have, that has occurred to only to us, or something that we may be pondering about, has already a lot of these has already been thought about. A lot of these ideas have already been discussed, and books have been written about it. Great thinkers have written about it. I remember, um, who was it? Yeah, it was Foucault, Michel Foucault, who wrote in his book Knowledge and Power. He says knowledge and power are indistinguishable. One determines the other. Those who have knowledge have power, and those who have power and those who have the knowledge or create the knowledge. I think he wrote this in his book Discourses. I think, I'm not sure. I'll have to check. But here's the interesting thing. This is something that we see all around us. We experience it. We have thought about it. Maybe not in these terms, not in this language, but we certainly have thought about it. Here's an example. In the medical field, right? A lack of attention, in the inability to focus on a certain task, today has a name for it. Today has it's seen as a problem, or is seen as a condition, and it is defined in a certain way. There are treatments for it. There are kind of other remedies, therapy, whatever, right? So, how did this happen? Now, it is created by the medical institution, right? The whole structure. They have the knowledge, which means that they can then determine what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, what comes within the range of normalcy, what is beyond the range. And therefore, when they can create these divisions, in effect, that is an expression of power. They determine who is normal, who isn't, who requires treatment, who isn't. Similarly with the cholesterol numbers that we see, right? There was a time when certain numbers were perfectly acceptable, and then that number reduced and reduced, and this whole debate about, is this the work of the medical lobby, because they want to get more people into the bracket of needing medication so that they can push their products, right? But again, the power to determine that rests with those who have the knowledge, those who have the research, those who have the resources to back it up, to fund it, right? And that is one way in which knowledge and power kind of play off on each other and are almost indistinguishable. And with that power, it feeds back into the knowledge base. So it's kind of a vicious loop. So anyway, this idea is something that we've all thought about, we've all experienced in real life, and you can think of many more like this. But these have already been thought about, these have already been written about. And therefore, what I'm saying is not that we stop thinking or we stop having these ideas, or everything has been done, so why do it, why bother. It's not that. But I think reading widely gives us an opportunity to expand on these thoughts that we've had, to add more to it. And critically, and this is the best part, I think it's a chance for us to debate with the authors, the thinkers themselves. Great. It's an opportunity for me to debate with Michel Foucault. Otherwise, I never would get a chance to speak with him. The the other thing is, a lot of these books that when we read, especially deep, heavy, dense books like literary theory, literary criticism, books on critical thinking, etc., they're pretty dense. And in my experience, they've been extremely, extremely hard to get through. Even a couple of pages is really difficult. And it made me think about this analogy that Stephen King talks about and writes about in his book on writing. He says writing is like archaeology, right? Imagine you're an archaeologist slash writer, and when you start writing something, when you're exploring an idea, when you're exploring a theme, you just start digging the sand, digging the earth. You use different tools, you use finer tools, you use a brush to clear up. And when you come across a bone, a fossil, or something, but you don't know what it is. It could be the bone, it could be the finger of a T-Rex, or it could just be an isolated single piece of bone. It could be attached to something humongous, or it could be something pretty small, but you don't know what it is. And the only way of knowing what it is to keep digging, to keep digging, to keep clearing away the debris until it is fully revealed to you, right? And that is the example that he gives in relation to writers. So as writer, you don't really know what it is that you are going to find, what it is that you're going to create. The only way is to keep revealing more and more, clearing away the debris, revealing more and more of what you've come across. My phone is ringing. Similarly with reading. So Stephen King writes about this. Now, I'm not entirely sure if it is his example or if he's thought about it, because I've seen it mentioned in a couple of places by different writers. And I'm not sure, just because I read it first in Stephen King, I'm not sure if he's the one who created it, but it seems to be a fairly prevalent idea. I am just adapting that to reading, and I'm thinking reading is pretty much the same. You're an archaeologist there as well, and the first time you read, you just discover some portion of it that makes sense. You don't really know what it connects to, what are the bigger networks that it has, right? Where it leads to, what are the bigger thoughts it is connected to, the bigger ideas and the themes. You get a fraction of it. And I think the more we read the same book, whether it is a difficult non-fiction book or even a difficult fiction book, I think the more we read, it's like the act of clearing away a little with every read. Especially a book like In Search of Lost Time, Marcel Proust. Those books definitely warrant multiple reading, because it's very hard to understand what in the world he's talking about in just the first reading. I remember when I read Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children in college, I was completely unprepared for it. I had no understanding of what he was talking. The writing just zapped me. The ideas were astonishing, but to really understand the multiple layers of what he is writing about, what the character of Salim Sinai actually represents or stands, took me a lot of reading, lot of rereadings to come to, and it felt like the act of clearing, like archaeology, like clearing away the debris, clearing away the sand, until you find out, okay, this is the structure, and maybe that will change. What it looks like the first time may completely change. Anyway, it's been a fairly long video. I think we've digressed quite a bit. It started off with Pachinko, which I said, hey, what makes something literary? And I was astonished to find that this idea has already been talked about. What makes something literary? And the Russian formalists have already written books about it, which I am now going to go and read. I've set it aside. So, and that's the advantage with reading, that some of the ideas that you have already been thought about, and here's a chance for you to enrich that. All right, I hope this was fun. I hope there was something valuable that you could take from it. I hope it was informative. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you soon in another video. How do I stop this now?